The year is 1994. Disney had just reached the pinnacle of their massive comeback renaissance with, at the time, the highest grossing animated film of all time, The Lion King. Prior to that, Disney consistently had the biggest accomplishments in the animation industry. Their film Beauty and the Beast was not only a huge critical and financial smash, but it also became the first animated film to be nominated for Best Picture, at a time when animated films weren't considered for the category, and the Oscars didn't have their own category set aside for animation. And their films were consistently bank. Every time you saw Mickey Mouse had his grubby rat hands on a film, you knew that film was making money. And going into the middle of the decade, it was unclear if anyone could compare. In the past, other studios tried to match Disney's success, but to no avail. The closest we've gotten to a true rival to Disney's empire at that point was the small but mighty Don Bluth films, that were spread across the 80s, but even his films weren't doing that well at this rate. Going into the mid-90s, things were looking up for Disney. And that is when everything changed. I don't think I'm saying anything new when I say how revolutionary Toy Story is as a film. I recently got to see this film on the big screen for its 30th anniversary, so I got a chance to see it more recently, and even more importantly, I got to see the film through the eyes of those who saw it 30 years ago. I don't think I need to state how good this movie is or my official thoughts because, come on, you know what I'm gonna say. Everyone who says how good this movie truly is are absolutely correct. This is one of those nearly perfect animated films. I can't really think of any real problems I have with it. The dog. The dog, yeah. The film, of course, follows Woody, a cowboy doll voiced by Tom Hanks, as he is the self-proclaimed favorite toy of a kid named Andy. But things get shaken up when a new sci-fi toy, Buzz Lightyear, a space ranger voiced by Tim Allen, is given to Andy as a birthday gift, because he watched the movie. So Woody and Buzz compete for Andy's attention and get lost, you know the plot. It's never understated how important of a movie this really is. At the time of this film's release, CG was a relatively new concept, often just used in action movies and stunt work. And at the point when Toy Story would release, it was not only a cool idea, but an overused one. Jurassic Park was mostly the best to utilize CG, and Mortal Kombat, yeah, that's stupid. So when everyone found out the first ever CG animated film was going to be a children's film about talking toys, you can guess why people didn't have hope for this film. Even Disney didn't. But with that, it clearly skyrocketed and put a legitimate competitor to Disney's work on the map. Yeah, you can say Pixar is just another branch of Disney, but face it. You all associate Disney and Pixar as two completely different beings. And that's okay. Disney makes the more whimsical stories, the fairy tales and the stories of heroes and villains, while Pixar has always been good at the down-to-earth real stories. As real as talking toys can be, you get what I'm trying to say. It's funny, it's somewhat deep with its emotions, it sets up the future of animation. I enjoy a good hand-drawn film here and there, but this clearly shaped the mold. It's often even said that if you make a CG animated film, you usually take an element of either this or Shrek, and I think that's fair. You all know it's good, let's not spend any more time than we have to, you know it's good. Enough said.
And you, my friend, are responsible for delaying my rendezvous with Star Command.
So as I mentioned, Disney was on a hot streak during the early 90s. Back-to-back smash hits that not only told beloved stories and shared amazing characters and catchy songs, but damn, they were bank. Like, rich as fuck! We're talking Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Lion King, all back-to-back. These were films that often get put on the best animated films of all time list, and make no mistake, there's a reason. Disney put their best qualities into these films, and I'll always give them that. And not to mention, their 1991 release, Beauty and the Beast, was nominated for Best Picture, at a time when animation wasn't even considered at the Oscars. And the thing is, Beauty and the Beast was a much more serious story than Disney's last two films at that point, Aladdin and Lion King. While these films had emotion and serious moments, neither hit those notes that Beauty and the Beast had. Naturally, they wanted more Oscar clout, so in 1995, they slated to just fuck everything up. Pocahontas is a film I've grown to not only dislike, but even hate. It's the story of Pocahontas, the daughter of the Algonquin chief, voiced by Irene Bedard, sharing a romance with an English soldier named John Smith, voiced by Mel Gibson. Of course, that creates tension and even war between the English colonists and the Algonquin tribe. If I'm saying that wrong, I'm sorry. So, because there's so few of them, I'll go over the few good things this film has. The one easy thing to comment on are the colors of the wind. No, I'm talking about, of course, the animation. I gotta give its due credit, it looks gorgeous. I also give that most of the music is good. That's it. That's the only two things I can think of off the rap that I actually enjoyed in this. Let's talk about the lead, Pocahontas. She's voiced by Irene Bedard, and I really don't blame her because in comparison to someone like Paige O'Hara with Belle, because Belle wasn't a real character, O'Hara was able to have fun with the performance, making what I consider the best protagonist of this era of Disney. I can't say Bedard is bad, but Pocahontas was a real person. I'm sure Bedard was told how to act and wasn't allowed to have fun with her performance. Even then, she still talks to fucking animals like a Disney princess, and keep in mind, she usually gets grouped in with Jasmine, Belle, and Ariel, so if she's supposed to be in this official lineup of Disney princesses that shaped the mold of Disney's female protagonists, why did they even bother with making her act and feel realistic? I always like that there's some quirk to these princesses. Not like Anna or Rapunzel, more like Ariel's naive, Bella's headstrong, Jasmine's a rebel. Pocahontas doesn't have any notable quirks. She wants peace for her people and wants to protect nature. Sorry, I have narcolepsy. This movie sucks. Anyhow, let's talk about the villain. This was in an era of back-to-back menaces of villains, absolute bastards who didn't care how evil they were, and they were damn good at being evil. Back-to-back, we got Ursula, that guy from Rescuers Down Under, Gaston, Jafar, and at our most recent at that point, Scar, the bastard brother of the king who murdered his brother and almost murdered his nephew in cold blood with no remorse. All for the power of the Pride Lands. But something switched up with specifically this movie. I can't even say it affected future Disney villains because, well, come on. Count Frollo, Hades, that fucking guy. These all had somewhat an essence of that classic Disney villain. Ratcliffe is not only wasted talent when you consider Disney veteran David Ogden Stiers voices him, but there's only one thing to his personality. Wait a minute. Yep, the whole deal with Ratcliffe is that they not like us, so they can't be trusted. There's even a lame-ass song about it. I said most of the songs were good, but I hear a lot of people defend Savages, and I just don't get it. This song sucks, dude. And then there's John Smith. Sorry, I have sleep apnea. This movie sucks. It's boring, it's clearly Oscar pandering, it's a total snore fest. If it weren't for some great visuals, I'd argue this being one of the worst Disney films. But I guess it can be one of the worst Disney films of the decade. I can't stand it, I don't want to talk about it anymore. Let's talk about the more fun Disney film. This was the first movie I ever watched and remembered watching as a toddler. A Goofy movie has always been something special to me, but I think more recently I've gone back and saw how much it really meant to me. To say the least, A Goofy Movie is a film that may not be one of Disney's biggest, more epic, or even the funniest, but that's kind of the point. At this rate, most Disney films had a grand-scale epic feel to it, and Goofy Movie wasn't supposed to be that. It was a lighthearted road trip comedy following Goofy and his son Max. I should mention this was an indirect sequel to the Disney afternoon show, Goof Troop. More on that later. Goofy wants to spend time with his now high school-aged son Max, who I just found out was voiced here by Jason Marsden, who also voices the main character of one of my favorite platformers of all time, Taking the Power Juju. However, Max is a teenager and doesn't like hanging out with this uncool dad. But when he pulls a stunt at school, he forces Max to go on a fishing trip with him, even though he wants to go watch the Powerline concert with his friends. That's pretty much the setup. Goofy and Max go on a road trip with some loony scenarios, wacky characters, and I'ma say it, one of the most believable father and son duos I've ever seen. I've never watched Goof Troop, but from the clips I have seen, it seems the show dates itself with lots of 90s slang and cool kid terminology. I remember Nostalgia Critic covering it in his Disney Afternoon episode, and I can't deny the clips definitely show age. Which is funny, because this movie has none of that. The entire film feels just as modern as I'm sure it felt when it came out. Okay, I guess Powerline today would be, wow, there's a lot of 90s musicians that didn't age well. Vanilla Ice. No, I'm gonna go with Michael Jackson. Actually, before I knew musicians that well, I thought Powerline was voiced by Michael Jackson. But no, he's voiced by Tevin Campbell, and yes, he has two of the best songs on the soundtrack. Even then, how does the low-budget Goof Troop movie have a near-flawless soundtrack, but the big-budget Oscar-bait Disney movie has a half-and-half soundtrack? Not a single one of these songs I found annoying or pointless. Maybe the Nobody Else But You song, it's not as annoying as half the music in Pocahontas, so I guess it just earns the title of being a 6 out of 10 song in an album of 8 out of 10s. I also think it's not overstated enough how good Goofy and Max's relationship is. Because it's not just a generic father-son duo. Goofy is worried about Max going down the wrong path, but Max wants to be independent. Both parties are relatable, and neither are too forced. Also, I gotta say, they force a lot of relationships I don't buy in these Disney movies, and they couldn't force Max and Roxanne. This is one of the cutest goddamn relationships in any movie I've ever seen. I don't care about that poetry bitch in the sequel, even then she gets with PJ's fat ass, so I do have a chance. It sucks that outside of this in a one-off episode of House of Mouse, we never see Roxanne again. She said she was 18! While I'm at it, let's talk about the side characters in general. Most of the time they would set up these side characters and then wouldn't do much with them. But not only is PJ very funny and voiced by my favorite voice actor, Rob Paulsen, but we also got a lot of these students that honestly seem interesting enough to hold their own scenes. The principal might be my favorite character. A, he's voiced by Wallace Shawn, which is just a good way to make me like a character. And B, he freaks out on Goofy after Max's stunt, and the way he describes it is just ridiculous.
Before he ends up in the electric chair!
For dressing up as Powerline? That's like a principal saying a kid's gonna get the firing squad for dressing up as Rivers Cuomo. He might, actually. Also, the Powerline concert is a concert I wish I could go to. Closest thing I got is a Benson Boone concert. Oh man, this shit is ass! Now, I hear a lot of people say this is a perfect Disney movie, and I beg to differ. I love this movie, but like the other Disney films I love, I'm not gonna deny there aren't flaws. First one, Pauly Shore. He's not in it long, but he's... Cheddar Wizard! In it long enough. Also, there's a scene where they go to this possum park attraction, you know, one of those tourist traps you see roadside, and it's not a bad scene, it's just kind of filler. But as far as I'm concerned, this should have been Disney's focus. It's way better, way funnier, way more emotional. It's great, and you should go watch it if you haven't already. Also, check out the documentary on Disney Plus, only to hear this gem.
What if Steve Martin were Goofy?
Sometimes I forget Disney made Wish. Well, the Disney section's over, and now I have to live with the fact that without Disney, this year blows. The last 3 movies I've got here aren't bad by any means. Hell, this one's really good, honestly, but you can't tell me this was the best output. With that, we have Ghost in the Shell. Oh, I love Scarlett Johansson. I kid. But seriously, this film's great. Visually, it's probably one of the best anime films I've ever watched. If you don't know, it's about a cyborg policewoman hunting a hacker known as the Puppet Master. Visual and story-wise, this film excels. It is rated TVMA, so keep that in mind for my younger audiences. The action is great. It's surprisingly suspenseful. The main character is both interesting and badass. I got very few notes for it. It's great. So let's move on to... Oh, okay. Gumby the movie. Gumby? Gumby got a movie? Gumby? At this point, a Bear in the Big Blue House movie doesn't seem too bad. It's certainly a Gumby movie. Like I said, after the Disney stuff, we got very few things to note. I like claymation, but I actively forget Gumby exists some days, so this seems weird. I got nothing. Well, our last film is Balto. I'm covering Emblemation later this month, so I won't go into too much detail here. Balto is based on the true story of a dog who went through a tough storm to bring back some medicine for the disease-ridden town. Now, while obviously this isn't the complete story of Balto, if it was, I would be mad concerned.
Oh, jeez, we got people dropping like flies.
Perhaps I could help, Wolf.
Yeah, maybe you could.
No, it is very much fictionalized, but even by that standard, it's pretty cool for them to adapt this story. Again, I don't want to give too much time to it because I'll be covering it next week, so for now, just know Balto is a pretty good film. Yes, I gotta admit, the TV shows this year were, not bad, just not very notable. So, welcome to the Years in Animation TV Rapid Fire. Just gonna quickly give my thoughts and wrap it up. Timon and Pumbaa was Disney's output for this year for their Disney Afternoon block. This was both at a time when the Disney Afternoon was on its last legs, and when Timon and Pumbaa were at peak popularity following The Lion King. This show really depends on your thoughts on Timon and Pumbaa. If you like them, you'll probably like the show. If not, well, you know. There were 3 Jim Carrey movies in 1994, and all 3 of them received animated series the following year. Ace Ventura is goofy and enjoyable even without Jim Carrey as Ace. Dumb and Dumber is the one I don't really hear about, and after watching it, I can see why. The one thing I can give is that Harry is voiced by Bill Fagerbach, the voice of Patrick Star. And yes, everything this man touches reminds me of Patrick Star.
So...
Finally, we have the Mask animated series, and this one's my favorite. It's energetic and matches the tone of the film in almost every perfect way. Getting Rob Paulsen to play Stanley Ipkiss is a surefire way to make me like something. Earthworm Jim, the series, is based on the game series I've never played, but it's funny. This meme came from it.
I'm hungry, I'm cold, I'm itchy.
Homer Simpson voices Earthworm Jim, that's fun. It's goofy and it's zany and it's pretty great. Freakazoid came from the legendary Tom Ruegger, creator of Animaniacs, and it shows that this one's equally funny, zany, and great. Honestly, if any of Ruger's work could rival Animaniacs, it would be this one. Pinky and the Brain was the spin-off of Animaniacs, and it's also pretty good. Not nearly as good as his main series, but arguably a lot of people like Pinky and the Brain because of their segments in Animaniacs, so their own show made sense. Twisted Tales of Felix the Cat, oh my god! One of the weirdest shows I've ever watched. I'm not familiar with Felix the Cat, so I don't know much on the material shown, but it's bizarre, it's weird, it's weird. I always wonder what went through the minds of people who worked in animation when Toy Story came out. I'm sure some were excited about the new possibilities brought with a whole new dimension to play with, but on the other hand, I wonder if any of the people working in animation were scared. CG was a different beast, a change that might screw those who worked their lives on hand-drawn animation out of a job. In a way, the changes we could have seen with this film were scary. But honestly, I think that's the special thing about change. I know I'm not speaking for just myself when I say life changes in scary ways. For some of us, we might be saying goodbye to someone we love, whether because of a big move or sadly they're passing from our world. For some, we're changing our scenery, moving somewhere we've never been to change our lifestyle forever. And for some, like myself, it might be changing jobs. After so long learning the skills of one job, to pick up another is no doubt a scary thing. And we can even relate those scary changes back to the film that sparks this debate, Toy Story. In the film, Woody watches his world crumble as Andy becomes more attentive to Buzz than to him. In a way, Woody's life, his purpose, is changing before his eyes. We can relate to that feeling of fear, of uncertainty, especially with changes we can't control. I want to stop talking about a movie and talk to you guys. I know if you're going through a change, it might seem scary and you're uncertain where it will land you. But here's what my experience leaving one job to go to another was like. Leading up to my last day on the job, I talked with my soon-to-be former boss and asked him how I can deal with something this scary in life. And his words gave me the first bit of comfort I've had in weeks. Sometimes you have to change your life in order to improve it. It might not be the easiest thing to do, but you gotta trust your instincts, trust your gut, and let them carry you to the next big chapter. A month ago, I was in the lowest part of my life. I wasn't doing good mentally, my videos and my channel weren't where I wanted it to be, and then, halfway through, I got an opportunity to switch jobs, change my life, and better my mental health. It was tough, as I learned to love the people at my old job, but they all told me, don't turn around now. Life is out there, and go after it. So, for all of you going through a change, whether you control it or not, just trust your instincts. Do what you must to adapt, and know that for every negative change in your life, a positive one is just around the corner.